Hi friends, Jen here with Serenity Hill Farmstead, and today I'm going to walk you through my apothecary. This is the culmination of everything from us growing throughout the year this year, how I stock everything. I'm going to walk you through kind of how I keep an inventory. You can see it's floor to ceiling. It goes all the way to the top to bottom. So I'm going to just kind of go through everything. I'm not going to tell you every single herb I have, or this would be an incredibly long video, but I will tell you about just kind of the design of this and how we decided to organize this. And we're going to hit on some points about storage and what's really important for storing herbs like this. And then some of the preparation types that we have here. So let's get into it. Okay, so this is a floor to ceiling build that my husband made and designed. I told him what I wanted. I said, I want floor to ceiling storage, and I want this to be able to hold about 3 rows deep, and I need to be able to hold half-gallon jars all the way to gallon jars, which is down at the bottom. I'll show you in a minute. And I want to have room for baskets. Like, I told him all of the specs, like all of the things that I wanted there to be in this, and this is what he came up with. So I'm pretty sure it was just one sheet of plywood, and he just ripped that down and made the shelves. And then this is all just 2x4s that he stacked on top and kind of drilled together. I am not a construction person. I'm not. So I think he keyholed it is the term, and then put those together and then just stacked everything on top. So anytime I show this and talk about it, I hear people talk about, you need to have supports in the middle. So this has been here for a number of years. There is zero sagging. It's very, very sturdy. I would say this is about 4 feet wide, and our ceilings are 10 feet high. So it's not going anywhere. It is very, very sturdy, very, very strong. It is very much secured in many, many places to the wall. A couple things that I do want to make sure I do to make sure there is no sagging is anything that's super heavy is stored on the outside. Down at the bottom here, these are where I store all of these tinctures. And underneath here, I'll show you in a second, I've got 5-gallon buckets here, and that has nothing to do with herbs currently. That is just kind of our middle layer of our food, basically, for our family. And that's really only because it's the only place I had to put it, so I stuck it there. But I keep all of the heavy jars. So we've got oils over here that are going, and this is where the dried herbs that are in gallons are kept because they don't fit anywhere else, except all the way at the top up here. And honestly, I don't like doing that because I'm only 5'3" and I have to get on a ladder to get all the way up there. And it just makes me very nervous to get up there and then have to carry those down. I'm just always scared that I'm gonna drop it and shatter it and ruin all those herbs. Don't want that. So I keep all the big stuff down here. And all of these are tinctures that are in the process. So all of the support is down there underneath that layer with those 5-gallon buckets. It's super supported, so I don't have to worry about any bowing in the shelves at all. And like I said, all the ones in the middle here, these are super light. I mean, there's nothing really, not much in this one, but even the big ones, these are super, super light, and I don't have to worry about bowing here. If you are concerned about bowing, and this is something that you want to do, you could definitely put a support beam just right here, right down the middle, and that would help support the shelves. If you're going to have some weight, I would definitely recommend doing that. Just in design, the only thing that I want to change to this is really just add one thing. I want to take like a piece of 1x, so that's like, an inch, and just put it across here just to give it a little bit of a lip, because this is the most commonly moved through part of our entire house because our door is right here. So it's the first thing you see when you come in the back door, and everybody's running back and forth, animals running back and forth. I used to have these baskets that are all the way up at the top here. I used to have them all the way down here, but I have a cat who likes to do this, and you can see he's kind of started pulling some of them apart. He doesn't have claws, but he thinks he does. So it was kind of kind of a pain to have them down there and have him constantly scratching at it and tearing that apart. So I moved those, and really that's easier because that's the long-term storage stuff. That's the stuff that I'm not utilizing regularly. So I put this obviously with the weight at the bottom. This second shelf here is things that are either done or they're smaller jars that are in the process of. And these are the tinctures that I'm using to blend things for certain clients that I'm working with or for our family. Those are the ones that I'm going to be blending. I do have a second apothecary. It's just this little curio cabinet that I got from an estate sale from our neighbor. So it's like near and dear to me, and I wanted to use it for something that we loved. So I have a lot of finished tinctures in that cabinet, but I'm just going to show you what I consider our apothecary today. So the way I have these herbs organized, honestly, there is no rhyme or reason. I know what I have. And I know what I have because I have this clipboard with an inventory sheet. And this is, it's super, super simple. This is pen and paper, and I write dehydrated, oils, tinctures, and what's in Mylar. And I do have another sheet that I keep with like my business binder and planner and stuff. And that has a different inventory for things that are going to be for sale. But this is just like my resources, what I have, so that if I want to make a certain recipe or if I need to stock something, I can look at this and go, okay, I have this much of this, whatever. The only thing, and I just started doing this, is I started going through, I actually started doing this morning because everything on here was just, I had it all. And if I have it all and I'm not writing anything on it, it's all full. It's all fully stocked. But now you can see I'm starting to get low on a couple things so that I'm gonna have to pull them out of Mylar and restock. But I designed this way so it is super, super simple for me to reach everything, for me to access everything, and just super easy to restock and work with. And yes, it's a lot of jars. And I always get the question, where do you get your jars? We are lucky enough to live by a farm store because we are in a rural area. If you don't live by a farm store, I suggest you go find a farm store. Even if you live in the city, it's not that long of a drive for you to go to a farm. You can find a farm store virtually anywhere you live. You just might have to search a little bit for them. Walmart also carries them. Even if they don't carry them in your store, they do have them online, and you can just order it shipped to your store, and then you can go pick them up, and it's the same price that I would pay for mine. So the jars that I like to use are half-gallon jars for, you know, when I have more. Obviously, I like to use the half-gallon jars. And then as we start to dwindle down, half-gallon jars are precious in this house because I use them for tincturing a lot. So as we start dwindling down, then we switch to the quart size, and then we have pints, and we have half pints also. Okay, so we're gonna start down at the bottom here. It's a little bit echoey in here, so I really hope that that doesn't mess with the audio here, but we're gonna do as best we can here. So for storage, the other types of jars that I really like to use, if I have a really bulk herb like calendula, mugwort, oregano, those are super big herbs for us. We produce a lot of them. So I like to store in these gallon jars, and I just get these from Azure Standard. They're very affordable there, and they keep really well. They're good and sturdy. I've had some drop. I haven't shattered one yet. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Another one of the reasons that I like to keep the tinctures down here, and honestly the primary reason that I keep them down here, is just because of the sheer weight of them. As you go higher up in these glass jars that have all the dehydrated stuff, there's not that much weight to them at all. But once you start adding liquid with fresh herbs, there is significantly more weight to this. And I really, aside from not wanting things to buckle and cause this whole entire thing crashing down, which honestly is probably like my worst nightmare. And anytime that I would be climbing up there trying to get the tinctures when they were up there, I would constantly think of, oh my goodness, what if I fell into this and brought the entire thing down? All of those herbs would be ruined. Not what would happen to me, but what would happen to the herbs? But the other reason that I keep the tinctures down here is to keep them as far away from the light as possible. So I mentioned that the door is right here. We've got a door that has a big piece of glass in it. Probably half the door, almost half the door is glass. And then beyond that is a mudroom that has another door that has glass in it, a bay window, and another window. So there is a lot of light that comes in through this door. However, no light directly shines on this. And I have showed previously, and I'll show you again when we get up to the top here, that there is a curtain rod up there so that I could put a curtain and slide it across. And that's why it's up there, because I was thinking that in the original design, that yes, we could have a curtain rod up here and I could just keep everything closed. No light would ever get to it. It's super temperature controlled because this is the north side of our house. So everything stays relatively cool in the summer and even cooler in the winter, because this house is like 130 years old. So it's cold and drafty. So the light getting on here is really not an issue, but if you are going to build yourself an apothecary, it's very important that it's protected by light. I've mentioned this in several videos, but light, sun is your friend while you're growing, but as soon as you harvest it, light starts breaking down medicinal properties. And there are some, because I've had questions about that too, there are some methods of like solar drying your herbs. These are methods, yes, and you can use them, but really there is a sweet spot between too much sun, too much heat, and too much moisture. And you have to have the right conditions for things to dry in a way that it's going to preserve the medicinal properties of them. It doesn't do you any good to dry a whole bunch of herbs using the sun if when they're dry, there's very little properties in them. And you can usually tell, really looking at the herb, if it's not as vibrant, like, okay, here is black haw bark. Okay, oh, that does not really translate very well. Let's grab another one. Let's grab, that one's probably not going to either. Okay, we'll do St. John's wort. Okay, do you see all of the flecks of yellow, and you can see still how vibrant the green is in that? If you were to solar dry this and it sits in direct sunlight for too long with too much heat, it's not going to look like that. It's going to be pretty much kind of brown and faded green, and you can tell that it's not a great, you know, representation of what that herb should be anymore. So when I'm drying things, we've talked about methods before, but I like to hang inside. We like to dry on trays. We use dehydrators, and we do it in a very controlled environment so that we don't kind of sun scorch our herbs and keep them out of the sun. Basically from the time that we harvest until the time we're using it, it is completely out of the sunlight. I mentioned that I don't really have much rhyme or reason of where everything goes, but that's not entirely true. I know where everything is because I'm frequently in this apothecary. I'm in here daily, or just about daily, and I am searching through and I'm looking for things and I'm working with things. So I like to keep the things that I'm going to access the most right here, like right where it is kind of at eye level for me. That's the stuff that is the most accessible. And for us, we've got chamomile here, we've got mullein here, we've got lavender. Oh, actually, this is a lavender, mullein, and mint. Yep, tea. And it's just a little bit left. I also do have some of the tea blends that we're just kind of at the bottom of. Like this is my hormone tea, and this is the heart and lung tea. I think I probably have 2 more cups of that left, and then we need to restock that. So the stuff that I'm using regularly, I want to keep that right up front, right where it's like the most easily accessible to me, and I don't have to go searching for things. As we go higher up, those are the things that they're either bulk, like I've got a thing of sage here, so I don't need the half gallon of sage. That's going to be up top. So then I can just refill from that. If you are familiar with the concept of layers in preparedness, so you have like your pantry layer. So that's what you have in your pantry. And then you have your bulk, which is these buckets that are down here. Here, let me show you this. Okay, we've got these buckets here, like this is sugar, this is oats. That's like your middle layer. And then you've got your long-term layer, and that's gonna be in mylar. That's kind of the approach that I take to my apothecary also, because we do homestead and we do have long-term food storage, because that is the nature of homesteading. You're trying to preserve as much as possible to carry you through to the next year. So I've taken a lot of the concepts and how I homestead and how I preserve our harvests and our food for our family and put it into this apothecary because it all still applies. So again, we've got our short term, our pantry layer is right here. We've got our middle layer, and all the way at the top is our long-term layer. Okay, we're gonna step kind of back so that you can see all the way at the top here. Actually, maybe our ceilings are 8 feet, not 10 feet. Because if I'm 5'3", there's the ceiling. We probably have 8-foot ceilings. Anyway, so there up here is the long-term storage. And you can see, let me put you up there, that I've got Mylar bags up there. Each one of these baskets up here, with the exception of this is my still, which I still have not gotten a chance to make content for you guys on, but this is like what I use to make essential oils and things. These 3 baskets over here, they each have 5 10 by 14, I think they are, Mylar bags that are resealable. I don't heat seal them because I'm not going for, a 25 or 30 year storage here. Storing your herbs in Mylar is not the same as storing your food in Mylar. Herbs still, I personally would not go put herbs in dehydrated, freeze-dried, anything. I personally would not put them in Mylar and then trust the medicinal properties of them for more than a year. When you're freeze drying things, they definitely last a long period of time. And I have yet to find research on what the medicinal properties are going to be like long-term with freeze drying. I have not found anything. I have found that freeze drying locks in all of the properties of your herbs better than any other preservation method. But I haven't found anything about what those properties are, say in 30 years, because it hasn't been around that long. So I just keep that there as a way to keep light completely out. They are puncture resistant. They are super durable. There's a good quality bags. I don't get the cheap ones. And they are safe for a year. Okay, so the tripod is on my step stool that I need to be able to get up here. So we're just gonna kind of reach up and talk about this here. Like I said, everything that I'm going to access regularly is in like these 3 rows here. And everything that I'm not really going to be accessing as frequently is higher up in these shelves. So the types of herbs that we have that we don't access regularly, and by regularly I mean daily or a couple times or a few times a week, is gonna be the ones for like specific situations. So feverfew is up here for migraines, because that's not a regular occurrence in our house, but we do have a couple people that do get migraines. And we've got anise hyssop. This is not something we normally use for GI stuff, but sometimes we do. And I've got lots and lots of alfalfa. So I've got alfalfa here, but I've got so much alfalfa that I've also got it here, and I've also got it way at the top. Bee balm is another one. Monarda, this is another one that we don't regularly use, but we do use. So I want to make sure that it's there, but I don't need it immediately here. What's another one? Horehound is another one that I've got a lot of horehound, and that's usually something that's really only used when we've got like a sore throat issue. It's such a strong tasting herb. It's about the only application I can use it, and I have to really mask it with other things to get my kids to take horehound. It is not good in a tea. Don't put horehound in a tea. It is not a tasty thing. What else do we have up here? I've got excess passion flower, excess marshmallow. That's another one we produce a ton of, so I've got that in Mylar also. White willow bark, I've got extra in there. That is one that I use regularly for pain. White willow is actually where aspirin came from. So white willow bark is used as you would use aspirin. It's used for pain. And it's got some other awesome properties too, but that's probably the most popular property that people would be familiar with. I also do have more nettle, because nettle is probably the most used herb that we have in our home. And I want to make sure that we've got tons of it in every single layer. So that's another one that you'll see in every layer. Styptic powder. Okay, so yarrow leaves, and this one is up here because it's this little jar and I didn't want it up here. And I do have yarrow leaves all the way up in long-term storage also in the Mylar. But yarrow leaves, I store separately. Actually, I store them a little differently. I store yarrow flowers and leaves together because you can use those in teas and things, but I also store yarrow flowers separate from yarrow leaves. So I've got two different mixes really. And the yarrow leaves I want to have a stock of separate because I make styptic powder with that. And I do have a video I can put down below. So if you're interested in seeing how I make the styptic powder and the application for that, then you can check that video out too. But I want to make sure that I have that. Now this is something that I'm really only going to be reaching for when my supply is out. But again, it's a little jar. And if I have space here with little jars, I'm gonna put it with the little jars because I don't know about you, but I really like the aesthetic of this. And I want it to match. I want it to be symmetrical. So I keep that little jar there. We also have a lot of red clover up here. That is extra. We have astragalus up here and ashwagandha up here, and those are also two herbs that we'll see here. So you're seeing kind of a kind of consistent thing. I keep saying that, oh yeah, this is here, but this is also here. Do you see how it kind of layers? I use my immediate thing because it's easier to go into this than it is to mess with this big one. So I just kind of restock from the top down, and that's how I manage it. So that is pretty much my entire apothecary, but there's one more thing I wanted to show you. Getting this many jars and getting all of the lids and the rings and all of the things that you need for this can be very expensive. Or you can use things that you already have. Now, I would not store either dehydrated herbs or prepared preparations, oils or tinctures, especially not tinctures because it's vodka, in plastic. But what you can do is you can reuse bottles. So if you have friends, let me get one that still has a label on it. If you have friends that drink kombucha and they have these bottles, ask them to save their bottles for you because these are wonderful. They are amber glass. They are very much reusable. They're easy to clean. And well, this part honestly is kind of a pain in the butt, but I can still get my finger in there, and I've got this little like straw brush thing that's really thick that can go around. You get you one of those and those work really well. But this is the Health Aid kombucha bottles, and I usually take the labels off, but sometimes I get lazy and I just put a piece of masking tape over there. Like this is agrimony, so I just put masking tape over that and right on top of it. But these are great. These are great bottles. You can buy bottles like this on Amazon too, but it's so expensive. And I find that hitting up your Goodwill or your Salvation Army, whatever your local thrift store is, estate sales are fabulous for this, especially if you're in rural areas. People tend to can. If you're going to an estate sale and you see a garden, that's definitely somewhere you want to check for jars. And usually with estate sales and garage sales and things like that with older people that have passed, you will find a ridiculous amount of jars that people just don't want. They don't want to mess with them anymore, so they just get rid of them. The ones that you'll see that are expensive is like these older jars. Like this is an old jar, so this jar would be expensive. And you would see, depending on what year it is, and I honestly don't even know what year it is because I use my jars. I don't collect them just to look at them. I use them. But the jars that are blue and they have different writing versus the ones from this year, they just say ball right on the bottom. Everything's gonna be a little different, and the older ball jars are expensive. So if you see like on Facebook Marketplace or something like that, oh, look at all these jars and they want how much for one jar? That's insanity. It's not because that's the price of jars. Okay, it's because that's the price of those older jars and they're trying to get something out of them. So just keep on looking, don't get discouraged with them. When it comes to the lids, I reuse my lids. When I am canning, these, you can't reuse. Okay, now this is going to be someone's gonna say, yes you can. Okay, I do not reuse to can these lids, these kinds of lids, like the ball lids that you would get in like a 10-pack or whatever. I don't reuse these, but they're excellent for your herbs. So if you can, again, or if you know somebody that does and that does not reuse their lids for anything, ask them for them. And as long as they're not compromised. Like sometimes when you pressure can, if you are lifting your lid, sometimes they can get damaged if you don't have like a lid lifter, or if you don't have like a gentle way of doing it. But as long as there's nothing like rough and jagged, so you're gonna have to worry about getting metal inside your herbs, you definitely don't want to have that. You know, as long as everything is still intact, you can definitely use these. And then you can write on top of them. I use a Sharpie every single time, and you can just take a little rubbing alcohol and that still comes right off. And then you can reuse it when you need to. Oop, we're losing this lid. So some other jars, I want to show you one more. If you are buying pasta sauce in the store, reuse these jars. These jars are great. This is a Kirkland marinara jar. So this is from Costco. Ooh, their marinara sauce. Oh my goodness. Like, they're good, okay? That is oregano oil, and that, I think it's about ready. Yeah, I think that's about ready. And that can be washed and reused several times too. So the one thing I do want to talk about reusing your jars is if you have a dishwasher and you want to throw everything in there, that's all good and fine. But I find that sometimes you will get this film on the jars, on the insides of the jars, on the outsides of the jars. You just get this film. And that's from either a combination of your hard water and your dishwasher detergent. So when it comes to the jars that I am going to be putting herbs in, I will only hand wash them. I don't want any of that residue. I don't want even the chance of any of that residue being inside these jars with these herbs. We have these herbs for medicinal purposes. I do not want anything mixing in with it, if that makes sense. It's like, for me, that's not worth it. I mean, you do what you want to do for your home apothecary. For our family, and for the fact that I make things to sell off of this, I definitely don't want something being contaminated. And then, of course, you always want to make sure they are dry, because even a drop can ruin your entire herb, and that would be an absolute shame. The other kind of lid that I will use is these resealable ones. I get these plastic ones from Walmart. They're like, the last time I bought them, and I'm sure they're more expensive now because everything is. The last time I bought them, I think, was it a 5 or a 6 pack for like $2? And they're great. Now, if I drop a jar, these do crack, whereas the metal rings and lids will not. They'll dent, but I mean, you can push them back out, and they're pretty durable. They take a beating. So there is the apothecary for 2023. All in all, I have got well over 100 herbs. Hang on, I'm gonna count. All right, so it's 109. 109 herbs are represented here in my apothecary. They all have purpose. They're all wonderful, and this makes me very happy. This makes my heart very happy to have this. This will last our family definitely in through the next growing season where we can restock our herbs, and it will bless many customers also with various different things. We make tinctures, we make tea blends, we make salves, we make herbal oils, a lot of different things, and I'm very excited to use it. So I would love to hear from you what your apothecary looks like, what your setup is. If you're just getting started, if you have any questions, definitely put them down in the comment section, and I would love to have that conversation with you and help you get your apothecary started too. If you haven't seen the last video that I put out, that is on building your apothecary, some tips and things that you want to keep in mind when you are building your own apothecary specifically for your family. So I will put that down in the description box below so you can check that video out. And thanks for joining this. If you guys really enjoyed this, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. It tells YouTube you like this content and you want to keep seeing us. And you can share it for someone else that would enjoy it. Also, we'd really appreciate that too. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.